We're ready now. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is James Pasternak. I'm the chair of North York Community Council. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I'd like to now call meeting 15 to order. Welcome, everybody. This meeting is being held using the city's WebEx technology with members and staff connecting by video conference or calling in. Because we're meeting remotely, we ask for your patience and any delays with technical issues. Members of the public can observe the meeting on YouTube. We currently have registered speakers who have been connected to the meeting by audio. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting North York Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. I'd like to request that staff keep their video off unless they need to speak or answer questions, and this will make it easier for me as chair for those watching on YouTube to observe members as they participate in the debate on each item and during votes. If there are any visiting members of council attending the meeting today, I would encourage you to turn on your video so that I know you're present and give you the opportunity to ask questions of staff. This will also assist the clerk's staff in recording member attendance for the minutes of the meeting. I also ask that all members and staff keep their microphones on mute unless you need to answer a question or speak. If any members do wish to speak on an item, please make sure your video is on, raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I will create a speakers list. When voting, I'll ask that members make sure that your video is turned on. Raise your hands to indicate your vote. Members, I want to remind you that although members are participating remotely, you must still submit your motions in writing to the clerk. The clerk's staff are available by email at nycc@toronto.ca to help you with motions. Although we are in different locations and meet remotely today, the committee would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mishinaga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Don't see any. Okay. Oh, there we go. We can see everybody now. Next, we need a motion to confirm the minutes of our last meeting on March the 12th, 2020. Councillor Cole and Councillor Carroll, all those in favor? That is carried. So we have a number of timed items. We'll come back to those in a couple of minutes. But what we'll do is we'll run through the agenda on the non-timed items. And the first one is 15.2, 722 and 724 Marley Avenue zoning amendment application, preliminary report, and it's Councillor Cole. Councillor Cole, what would you like to do with this item?
I'll move the staff report.
Okay, staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 1513, accessible parking space. This is my area. I would be happy to move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1514, removal of school bus loading zone, Dubray Avenue. That's also mine. I'll move the staff recommendations. The school has made this request. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1515, parking amendments, Maxwell Street. This is a request from the community. In my area, I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 1516, parking amendment, Oriole Parkway. Councillor Cole.
I'll move staff recommendation.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1517, parking amendments, Kempford Boulevard and Lorraine Drive. Councillor Fillion.
I'll move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? Looks like it's carried. 1518, proposed traffic control signals, Bathurst Street, approximately 15 meters south of Danby. That's my area. I'll move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item is 1519, traffic control signals, Steeles Avenue East at Wagoners Wells Lane. I hope I said that correctly. Councillor Carroll, this is your item.
Yes, Wagoners Wells. I'll move the staff recommendations.
Okay, staff recommendations moved. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1520, always stop control, Highgate Avenue and Hillcrest. It's Councillor Fillion.
Move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations are moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1521, speed limit reduction on Hesketh Court. Deputy Mayor Mena Wong, this is your item.
Recommendations.
Staff recommendations are moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 1522. 1522.
I'll move.
Sorry?
I'll move staff recommendations. If the
Well,
local councillor doesn't want to recommend.
No, I'm not going to be moving staff recommendations. I'm going to be moving an alternative. If you want to hold it down, or I can clear it up right.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Okay, we can hold it down.
Councillor Pasternak, you have your motion. We're just getting it displayed for you. If you.
I think Councillor Mena Wong wants to hold
Okay.
1522.
Okay, thank you.
I'd be happy to release it with an amendment now.
I haven't seen the amendment. Is it to authorize the installation of the speed humps that aren't recommended?
Well, I'd like to speak to the item.
No,
It is.
fine.
Fine.
No, you can speak. I just thought if you're putting them in, then we're going to have a discussion about it. Otherwise, I'll hold it. I have questions.
Okay, it'll be held. Okay, 1523, Keel Street, George Appleton Way. I'll move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 1524, on-street parking restriction extension. I will also move the staff recommendations on that. It's a locally requested item. Those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Madam Clerk, I think we can go to our first timed item.
Councillor Pasternak, did you want to add the new business first before we go to the timed item?
Oh, you are correct. Yes, there are two items. So this, I'm just asking councillors to add them to the agenda. We're not voting on the actual items. There is one of mine of a safety study at a signalized intersection where we had a tragic accident a week and a half ago. We just want staff to take a look and see whether there anything else we can do to make that safer. So I'd like to add that item, Calvington and Keel Street. And I believe Councillor Cole, would you like to introduce your item?
You're on mute. You're on mute. Yeah.
Yes, is it possible to display it, or is it just the extension of a linear park east of Marley to the Island Expressway? It's city-owned property, and we're trying to finally reclaim it and make it part of the York Beltline. And I want to include naming it after a gas station attendant who died just around the corner from there, Jayesh Prajapati Gardens, as part of the linear park there.
Okay. All those in favor of adding it to the agenda? Opposed? That is carried. So we have the two new items.
Right.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. So we're at 15-1, 1100 Shepherd Avenue West. I understand, Madam Clerk, we have one deputant and Emily Reisman.
Good morning, Councillor Pasternak and members of council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this morning. I think I have the honor of being the first virtual deputant at a virtual North York Community Council meeting.
Yes, and you're just to clarify, you are representing the applicant.
Yes. My name is Emily Reisman. I'm a planner with Urban Strategies Incorporated in Toronto, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. Garrett DeBoer and Ms. Idette DeBoer, who are the owners of the property.
Okay.
I would like to start by thanking staff for their hard work on this file with us since the application went in. There are many thoughtful comments along the way that have helped to make an excellent contribution to this community should you decide to follow the staff recommendations, which we fully support. This is the last parcel in a master plan community that has been part of your official plan since 2000. And since that time, a vibrant community has emerged at the corner of Shepherd and Allen with 4 buildings long occupied and a 5th under construction, a new east-west street, and a public park. This site, which is on the west side of that larger parcel, just to the west of the Domo Center office building, will allow for the realization of the transit supportive densities that have long been planned for this area, with a minor increase in height to allow for the buildings to match the existing buildings on the site. It will complement its neighbors and welcome many new families to this community with several very interesting and unique family-friendly features, including 2-story suites, very large terraces where families can dine together, and an excellent complement of outdoor space on the rooftop, including an opportunity for safe children's play. Again, we welcome the staff report and the recommendations within it and look forward to completing this community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Reisman. Are there any questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other deputants on this item?
No other deputants, Council.
No other deputants? Questions for staff? Speakers? I would have my vice chair move the staff report and the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications. We've consulted extensively with this project. It's been on the books for many, many years. I think the investments in the local community are fair and reasonable. I think the community will benefit from it. I'm sure there will be some noise and mess when it's being built, but at the end of the day, I think it's value added. So I would have my vice chair move it on my behalf.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy to move it on your behalf with the brief comment. I think if the community is wondering why none of us have any questions, it is a lot about completing the community and I'll only say that I'm jealous. I wish that my subway zone was also in a flight path, and I've been looking at 14 stories. But I'm happy to move the recommendations on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item I have is 15.3. It's an encroachment appeal. Now it is Councillor Robinson, but we do have a deputant, I believe. Is there a Marissa Goldstein?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much for attending. You have 5 minutes.
Good morning, honorable council members. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. My name is Marissa Goldstein, and I am a small business owner who is planning to open a cafe in the retail unit which the proposed ramp will service. I voluntarily submitted this application on behalf of the landlord to enhance the community and make my business more inclusive for people with disabilities, as well as families who require the use of strollers for their children. I am here before the North York Community Council because this ramp requires a minor encroachment into the city boulevard and does not meet the setback requirement on only a small portion of the ramp at its entry point. Despite the setback not being met, Transportation Services noted that the proposed lack of setback will have no negative impact on traffic sightlines nor any financial impact to the city, and they recommend in their report that Council approve the request to install the ramp. Additionally, I have spoken with the Bayview Leaside BIA, Councillor Robinson's office, and Councillor Pasternak, who have all expressed their support for the ramp and also support the staff report's recommendation to approve the request to install the ramp. In their report, Transportation Services noted that the lack of setback may have a negative impact on winter sidewalk operations. I therefore surveyed and studied the strip of retail along Bayview Avenue where I am proposing to build the ramp, and note that there are at least 2 areas on this block where the sidewalk clearance is narrower than the 8-foot 3-inch clearance between the road and the proposed ramp at its most narrow point. For example, there is an existing planter and newspaper box located just north of the proposed ramp on Bayview Avenue that creates a sidewalk clearance of approximately 6 feet and 6 inches, which is 1 foot and 9 inches narrower than the minimum clearance between the proposed ramp and the street. I also observed that a business located at the southwest corner of Bayview Avenue and Manor Road at the north end of the same block has an existing patio with a fence that is not set back at all from the sidewalk on Bayview Avenue. And the clearance between the patio's fence and the street is only 7 feet and 6 inches along Bayview, 9 inches less than the narrowest minimum clearance being provided by the proposed ramp. Garbage bins, planters, newspaper boxes, patios, and utility poles dot this busy Leaside stretch, creating walkways with fluctuating clearances that are currently still able to be cleared of snow and maintained by the city in the winter. And the lack of setback at the entranceway of the proposed ramp will not have a negative impact on snow removal, since there currently are narrower areas being adequately serviced by the city's snow removal equipment on this block. Additionally, in the same building, just north of where we are proposing to build the ramp, there is precedent as an existing ramp was built in 2009 with no setback from the sidewalk. Furthermore, the ramp has been designed with a curb at the bottom, which will act as a buffer to protect equipment from coming into contact with the ramp and its railings, which is a design feature that is in accordance with standard industry practices. In consideration of the staff's report, their recommendation to approve the request to install the ramp, and the information that I have provided, I kindly request that Council support the staff's recommendation to approve the request to build the ramp. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for the deputant? I believe I see Councillor Carroll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one question. I note that staff in their recommendations, if we approve it, also put in that that the property owner should be aware that from time to time a utility company may need to get into that encroachment. But if you're building this structure, is it being built in such a way that will be possible, that it could be disassembled and rebuilt effectively?
I think that the way that it is proposed to be built, I believe before we build it, there will be the surveys to come in to check where the utilities are located. So
Right.
we'll determine then, you know, how much space there needs to be and where they are.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay,
Thank
those
you.
are my questions, Mr. Chair. Oh, your mute button's on. You're mute. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Are there any other questions for the deputant? No? Okay, Ms. Goldstein, thank you very much, and good luck with your business. Sounds
Thank you.
very exciting. All the best.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any questions for staff on this item?
No.
No? Speakers?
I'll speak only to move the staff's recommendations, Mr. Chair.
Okay, staff recommendations moved. Once again, Ms. Goldstein, good luck with your new business. Sounds very exciting. It's great to see some good economic news in the city. And all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
10 o'clock.
15-4, application to remove private tree, 17 Alston Drive. Are there any deputants? Madam Clerk, is that homeowner here or no?
No, Councillor, there's nobody to register.
There's nobody. Yeah, I don't have anyone listed to speak on this item. Okay, I would ask my vice chair to move the staff recommendations.
Yes, happily. I'll move the staff recommendation.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Uh, 15-7, application to remove a private tree, 95 Gordon Road. It's Councillor Robinson. And I don't have any speakers listed. I don't have the homeowner listed here to speak on the item. Councillor Robinson has left instructions with both myself and the vice chair to move staff recommendations on her items. So,
Right. Yeah.
Unless there's questions for staff or any speakers, I would simply ask Councillor Carroll to move the recommendations.
I'll move the staff recommendations.
Okay, staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Can't see everybody. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Councillor Pasternak, what number did you just deal with? It's just because I want to make sure we dealt with number 5.
That was Councillor Robinson's.
Okay.
Yeah, there was item
Wasn't
7.
that 90, item 7, 95 Gordon Road.
Okay, we're going to go back to NY 15.5.
Okay. All right, sure. Application to remove 2 private trees, 12 Stone Dean Boulevard. I'm going to defer the item unless there's the homeowners here to speak. No homeowner. Okay, Madam Clerk, I'd like to just simply defer this item to the next regularly scheduled North York Community Council meeting.
Councillor Pasternak, NY 15.5 is 12 Stone Dean Boulevard.
It is, yes.
Yes, and that is to, my understanding is to refer it back to staff.
Deferral is fine, or a sober second look to staff is fine. Yeah. I was going to defer rather than refer.
Do you prefer to defer? Because if there was a communication from the applicant indicating they did not wish to remove the 2 trees, so it was being referred back to staff.
Okay, we'll refer it back to staff.
Okay. Want to vote?
All those in favor of referral? Opposed? That is carried. I believe we go back to 15.8. Application to remove a private tree, 34 Whitaker Crescent. Councillor Carroll, this is in your area.
Yes.
Is the homeowner here to speak?
She is not, Mr. Chair. I'm going to move to defer this to the next meeting, to the July meeting of the Community Council. We met on site with staff. Thanks to Mr. Bostock for attending, and she has some things to add to the application. So I'm going to defer this to the next month.
Okay, deferral is on the floor. All those in favor of deferral? Opposed? That is carried. 15.9, request to rename Clanton Park to Ellie Wiesel Park.
Councillor
That is-
Pasternak, before we go to number 9, can we go back to NY 15.6? We do have one of the deputants on the line.
Yeah.
15.6. Okay, sure. Is it Jamie Appleby?
Yes, Jamie Appleby is first.
Okay.
Deputant is ready.
Great. Okay. Okay. Thank you for coming. Ms. Appleby? Mr. Appleby? You have 5 minutes. This is 522 Woburn Avenue, Ward 8. So, Councillor Cole.
Mr. Appleby there?
Jamie Appleby, can you go ahead, please? Jamie Appleby, you're ready for you. If you want to go ahead, please. Otherwise, we will try the next speaker.
Mr. Appleby? No? Should we hold the item down or?
If you want to hold it down, we could do that and come back to it at the end.
Okay, we do have a second speaker, a Cody McDonald.
They are not present yet.
No? Okay, let's hold this down and we'll come back to it at the end of the agenda. So we've done 15.4, 15.7. Madam Clerk, are we at 15.9?
Yes, but it's not 10:15 yet. Did we want to go back to NY 1511, which we jumped over during the run-through? Or we can deal with the 2 new business items that were introduced because those are now available.
Oh, that's true. Okay. So let's do it all then. Let's do the new business and then we'll go to the held items.
Mr. Speaker?
Yeah.
Just a question. I haven't actually seen them. How are the new items being circulated to us? Are they emailed?
Should be on the screen.
They are made live on our system, and you should also be able to see anything in CMP. But we can display them on the screen if that would help, Councillor.
Oh, I just refreshed and now I see them in the system. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, can everyone see them? Madam Clerk, is mine first or is it?
Yours is first, Counselor.
Mine's first? Okay, so we've made this a focus of special attention because of a tragic accident last week in which a northbound vehicle who was turning left late at night northbound onto Calvington struck a pedestrian, a young girl, 17, and she was killed, and her sister was injured, and it just totally shocked the community. I went to visit the site, take a look around, took the signage, light signals, and so forth. And it's not my area to decide whether the intersection is safe enough. Can we make it safer? So it's a signalized intersection, but we're asking staff to take a special look at this intersection to make sure tragedy like this doesn't happen again. And as a father of four, I can't imagine what the family is going through. So it's just really asking staff to do a safety study of this intersection.
Mhm.
I don't have questions for staff. I've spoken to the motion. Does anyone have any questions for staff or wants to speak? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now we can go to Councillor Cole's motion. I'm just popping on the screen for a sec. Councillor Cole, do you want to just quickly explain? It's fairly straightforward, installing a memorial plaque.
Yes, I just want to ask staff a question.
Okay, questions for
Can I?
staff? Staff to the floor.
Lisa Ryan can answer.
Is that, yes, the question of staff, as you know, we're trying to, or there's been a plan to extend the Allen, not the Allen, but extend the York Beltline from Marley to the Allen Road. And we have some city property there, and then we have some city property that was indirectly taken over by the apartment building next door. We now have it back. So I've wanted to, and I've renamed this extension in memory of Jayesh Prajapati, who was the gas station attendant who was murdered around the corner there, unfortunately. So my intention is to essentially name it in his name, and I thought calling it Jayesh Prajapati Memorial Gardens would be appropriate. Do I really want a memorial plaque, or should I say that we name it the Jayesh Prajapati Memorial Gardens, that section of the Beltline? Like your advice on that.
Speaker, that's a good question. I think if you'd like to name, I don't know how the naming got to the York Beltline. But I think if you were to submit, if that is your preference to rename the Beltline, that portion of the Beltline itself, then you'd actually have to submit it that way. Then a plaque would be a plaque, and that's what you'd be asking staff to identify in it. But if you were to go through the renaming of that portion of the Beltline, the staff involved in that investigation and looking into that would go through the process as per the council approved policy.
Yeah, the only problem is right now that is like in limbo, that public property. It is not part of the York Beltline. It has no name because we are essentially repurposing land that was abusively used by an abutting owner. So it's not as if we're renaming it. So I just look for your direction on that. So it's not a renaming because it's not part of the York Beltline right now.
You're correct. That is, yeah, that was my mistake. I agree with that. It wasn't the York Beltline. I do think that you would need to submit a motion with regards to the naming, because the actual policy is about naming or renaming a city property. And typically when we do have new parks, we do identify them. In this particular case, it's York Beltline. It's just an identifier. But to do the official naming, we do still go through the process for any new or renovated, rejuvenated park space. So I think if that is your intention, I believe you should modify the request to include that instead of a plaque.
Okay, now this has been going on for about 2 years, so I don't want to drag this out.
That's true.
So we'll just, Mr. Chairman, can we just hold it? I want to reword that motion to reflect that advice we got from staff. So I'll just hold it for now.
So we'll hold the item. So you'd like to turn it into a garden naming or a park naming rather than a plaque?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So, Madam Clerk, we'll hold that item down and come back to it in a little while. I think we have another minute. I'd be happy to do traffic calming on George Appleton Way and James Finley Way. Councillor Carroll, are you still online?
I am.
Okay, great. I don't expect everybody to be familiar. It's a very small roadway that cuts off of Kiel just north of the 401 and cuts through a series of buildings constructed on the southeast corner of Kiel and Wilson. And there's actually another application. The old Canadian Tire store is long gone, and the gas bar is now gone, and another building is going up. And what's happening is people come northbound on Kiel off the 401 and cut through the small backwards L-shaped street, racing through the community where people are crossing to get to underground parking and to other amenities. And the community's been asking for some kind of traffic calming through there for many years. It's been hard to get. And I thought in this situation, we'd do something before a tragedy occurs. They've been asking for speed humps for some time. We would only need a couple in there. And that's why it's before its staff. We came very close to the warrants. So I have a motion to approve the speed humps, and I think the clerk has that ready for us. So that's my introduction. If there's questions for staff or any other comments, are there other questions for staff?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Minawong.
Yeah. So Councillor Pasternak said that that on this street, the cars were racing down the street. So the average speed limit on George Appleton Way is 35 and 31 kilometers. And the operating speed is 43 and 40 kilometers on a 50 kilometer speed limit. Does staff consider 35 kilometers average speed racing? It's a pretty slow race, isn't it?
Through the chair, no, the speeds weren't excessive. The operating speeds were found to be less than the statutory speed limit, which is why the traffic calming criteria was not met. We did find the volumes were quite high, indicating a high level of cut-through traffic, but the operating speeds were found to be less than
substantial. It's not just like, this wasn't even like close. It was substantially less, right?
Yeah, they were less. You're correct, through the chair.
And so speed, let's just kind of review for a second. Speed bumps are supposed to reduce speeds, and their purpose isn't to, from a transportation point of view, they're not meant to redirect traffic. Is that fair to say?
Through the chair, yes, typically they're intended to reduce operating speeds. Yeah, you're correct.
So the instrument here is they're using, the counselor is saying that they're high volume counts. And the purpose here is he wants to use speed bumps for a purpose that's not intended. Because speed bumps, by their very definition, are used to reduce speed. There's no speeding in this circumstance, right?
Through the chair, that is correct, Deputy Mayor. If the issue was cut-through traffic, we would typically recommend turn or entry restrictions.
Right. Okay. So, all right. I think I understand this. I'm fine. I'll speak to it, but I think I understand what's going on this street, Mr. Chairman. And it's not a lot of speeding, but there you are. I'll speak to it.
I'll ask a question of staff, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Carroll, questions of staff?
Yes, and I had a look at this because I did note as well that speed is not so much the issue, but these are pretty high volumes to be looking at. This is meant to help what was meant to be a small residential street to handle putting in a little bit of infill housing where Canadian Tire used to be. Eventually, the hotel will be replaced by housing. But all told, you'll still only have about 1,000 units, and yet 4,000 cars are going through in a day. So there's a big infiltration issue here. Is it not the case that there are a lot of places in the community where, while we may be putting in speed bumps to manage speed, the reality is they also have a deterrent effect if you have a real problem with infiltration, where people should be using the major arteries around here, and they're infiltrating and using what should be a quiet residential street. Speed bumps can have an impact there, intended or not. Is that not true?
Through the chair, yes, I guess I could say incidentally, but their main intention is to reduce speeds. Item 1523, which restricts turns from Keele onto George Appleton,
right,
should address the issues with the cut-through traffic. Although residents will also be impacted, this should have a significant impact. That was what staff was recommending in the subsequent agenda item.
Right, and if we put in speed bumps, you have to reduce the speed to 30 kilometers an hour, do you not?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. But pending the streets classification as locals, they would subsequently be reduced to 30 regardless.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. I have spoken, so although I'd love to speak again, people are probably
I'll let him speak again. I'll move that motion.
People are probably tired of hearing my voice. I would just, since I haven't asked questions to staff, I would just ask a question. It is true the speed humps are a deterrent to speeding, but aren't speed humps, and I live on a street with speed humps, a deterrent to taking that route?
Would they deter taking that route? I guess if they slow traffic to the point where those two streets were no longer a viable alternative to going to the intersection of Keele and Wilson. I'm thinking if they're still providing a quicker route to get from Keele to Wilson rather than going through the intersection, that motorists will, likelihood continue to use those two streets.
So if we the speed limit's lowered, we put speed humps and turn restrictions, people will follow the main arterial roads and won't cut through this neighborhood at high volumes, the outlandish volumes that we're seeing now. Isn't the goal to reduce the cut through volumes as well as the neighbors say they're speeding, but it's always hard to say when you're visually looking at things.
Yes, through yourself. That is the intent. The issue through our studies found that the issue was cut through traffic, and there's very high volumes, but the speeds were not excessive. That's why staff recommended the turn restrictions, and the traffic calming was not warranted.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. Are there any other questions for staff on the item? Any other speakers? Madam Clerk, if we could put the amendment.
James, I want to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't see you on the screen. There you go. Enjoy. You have 5 minutes.
Yeah, just briefly, what we do know is there's no speeding on that street. But we do know the volume counts are high because people are using it as a cut through. I would support the turn restrictions that are recommended by staff. But I don't support the speed bumps because they're not intended for that purpose. And it's not even close. So, if there's a problem with cut through traffic, let's do the appropriate thing and put in those turn restrictions. It may make it a little inconvenient for the residents, but that's the proper solution. And then, the other thing is you do this on one street, speed bumps pop up like all over the city, and it's hard to say no to them because they're used for an unintended consequence. So, I want to support the councillor in reducing the volume counts. Those turn restrictions I would support, but I can't support the speed bumps at this point in time because the speed limits are painfully low. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Any other speakers on the item?
Yeah.
Councillor Carroll?
Yes, I just want to speak. Ordinarily, councillors would see me taking the same position that the deputy mayor just described, and waiting to see what the turning restriction does. But I just wanted to say that really, for me, this is a case of told you so. When the development first went in, where the Canadian Tire is, the councillor of the day, Councillor Ojamari, said she was a bit worried about this, that they were going to create this road network, and she was a bit worried because at peak times, the intersection of Keele and Wilson is quite loaded. So she envisioned people heading off the ramp, and the convenient shortcut would mean that they would be cutting through this neighborhood. Then a few years later, some might remember, as you get to the top of James Finley, there's a little plaza pickup retail that went in, some eating establishments, etc. And at the time, they even configured the building so that there's no direct access off of James Finley into that. They positioned the building so that it's a wall of buildings, and made it so that shortcut wouldn't be a convenient entrance to the stores. But what's happened is it ends up making it a bit of a roadway that is just a very smooth shortcut in really the wrong place. There is plenty of load space in the intersection of Keele and Wilson that if you don't live in this neighborhood, you shouldn't be in it. And the plan, there was a context plan. The plan was to load more residents in. The hotel might not be there one day. How much residents could we load onto this corner so that it's truly a neighborhood? Well, if the planning goal is that it be truly a neighborhood, then I have some real appreciation for the local councillor's problem with infiltration. And while it's not ideal, I suspect that if we don't approve them now, we'll be back here in a couple of years when a few more units are built in, and we'll be addressing this problem then. And so I'm going to support the councillor in this case.
Well, certainly that's appreciated. Any other speakers on the item? Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could put the amendment on the screen, we can vote on that. Okay. Can't see everybody. All those in favor? So I see there's me, Councillor. There's Councillor Carroll, Councillor Cole. I want to make sure it's done accurately. And Councillor Fillion. Opposed? Deputy Mayor Minawong. That carries. Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, I believe I left off at number 9, 15.9.
Correct.
So it's a request to rename Clanton Park to Ellie Wiesel Park. I'll probably save my speech for the unveiling of the new sign. But are there any questions for staff?
I have one question. The original name, what was that named after?
Sorry, I can't hear. I couldn't
Sorry.
hear you. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The park is currently named what?
Actually, everything cut out. So I don't, there's two of them. Are we talking about Clanton or?
Clinton.
Clanton. It was called Clanton Park. Yes.
And what is that named after? Is it the road?
The road. That's correct. Its location.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Nope.
Any speakers? Okay, I would just say that Ellie Wiesel is known worldwide as a human rights activist, as a Nobel Prize winner, as an author, intellectual. And I thought it was most timely when this idea came up that we take a park that is very important to the local community, and that is named after a road, and give it a little more meaning. And in an era where we really talking about human rights and high purpose, I thought it was appropriate. He's a Holocaust survivor. He took on some very noble causes during his lifetime, and I thought it was a worthy tribute. So I'd be happy to move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item I have is NY 1510, request to rename Wilson Heights Parkette to Michael Feldman Parkette. Are there questions for staff? No questions for staff. I have.
Mr. Chair, there you go. Councilor
okay.
Minawong was trying to speak. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Maybe you want to ask about the Milton Burger one as well, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, yeah. Have you talked to Mike?
Yeah, we we have spoken.
Is it big enough for him?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I was going to be able to rename Downsview Park or Central Park Mike Feldman Park, but that might have
I
been
think
more
if you
welcoming.
name the golf course after him, he might like that a little bit more.
Well,
I'm just concerned. I'm concerned he never wanted to be put out to pasture. Now we're naming a pasture for him.
Well, he left office 10 years ago, and it is overdue. And these are not easy decisions because you want to make sure it's appropriate. But it's a beautiful little parkette on a main thoroughfare. We've invested some money in it recently, and I have spoken to him about it. I think it's a worthy tribute.
No, I serve with Mike, and I think he deserves the recognition, so I'm fully supportive of it.
Okay. I'll just say a word of tribute to Mike, who served 18 years before me. He's helped a lot in the years I've been at City Hall on various issues. He represented our area with a lot of honor and dignity, an advocate of affordable housing, a strong advocate of affordable housing. That was really his passion, and contributed greatly to our green space in the old Ward 10. So I think this is worthy of a recognition of his contributions to the local area. So staff have agreed. So that's a good thing. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Madam Clerk, did we hold another item down?
One item we missed was the NY 1511, the appointments of directors to the Young Lawrence Village
That was it.
Business Improvement Area.
Is this our last item?
No, we have number 6, and we which has the deputant, but we also have Councillor Cole's.
Oh, we're going back to. Okay.
We have to go back to.
Okay. Do we have those deputants on the line? Or
We have
available?
one. Jamie Appleby is on the line.
Okay, so we can hear. This is Councillor Cole's ward. Okay, so first we'll do appointment to directors. This is the York Lawrence Village BIA Board of Management. It's Councillor Cole, Councillor Robinson.
I'll move staff recommendation.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now we can jump over back to item 15.6, application to remove a private tree, 522 Woburn Avenue. And I understand we have Jamie Appleby on the line.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much for attending virtually, and you have 5 minutes.
Thanks for having us. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to discuss our tree removal. We're the homeowners who purchased a property at 522 Woburn Avenue last November. At the time when we purchased the property, on the recommendation of our building inspector, we hired an arborist from CW Trees to have a look at a blue spruce tree in the northwest corner of the lot. It's a smaller lot. It's a 20-foot lot, and there were some concerns that the tree at the time was healthy and causing some damage. CW concurred with our inspector and filed an application on our behalf for the removal of the tree, which was ultimately denied. Subsequently, on the city's recommendation, we brought in a second arborist, Marion Alway, to see if it was possible to find a healthy way to maintain the tree. Essentially, what's going on is the lower branches of the tree were bare and dead. There's an excessive amount of sap leaking due to the tree, and the top of the tree, there's a large amount of brown dead needles, which pose some health issues. Due to this, both arborists have declared the tree is unhealthy and likely has a fungus that deems it unable to maintain, despite whatever trimming or pruning that we're going to do. In addition to the health of the tree, we'd also like to discuss, some of the destruction of both ours and our neighbor's property caused by the declining health of the tree. The excessive sap drainage has caused extensive damage to the decking. Some of the dead needles have caused the sod around both ours and two of the neighbors' trees to die, and we've had to sod our yard and our neighbor's yard twice. The tree also sits on the property line of both yards, and it has an effect on the structural integrity of the fence, and the only solution is to replace the fence, but by doing so, we need to create some growing space for the tree by rebuilding the fence past the property line, which isn't really an option. If we do get the approval to move ahead with the removal of the unhealthy tree, we'd like to plant 9 new emerald cedar trees on the north side of the lot, where they have some room to grow and can be there for years to come. Sorry, can't hear you.
I do apologize. Any questions for the deputant? No questions for the deputant? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Appleby. And I have a second name here, Cody McDonald. Madam Clerk, do we have a Cody McDonald on the line? No? No more deputies?
Councillor Pasternak, Cody is not on the line, but we do have an extra deputant.
For this item?
Yeah, we're just calling her now. So,
Okay. Okay, we can wait a minute.
May I ask questions of staff now, or do we wait? Or
Well, we should-
Marianne
we should wait for the
Alway
deputants.
is the person we're going to call. Sorry, my mistake, Councillor. My understanding is that she was registered, but she has not called in. So if you want to continue.
So we can continue to the item? No more deputants on this item?
Correct.
No? Okay, great. Questions for staff? Councillor Cole?
yes, I guess urban forestry. The question is, there's two arborist reports saying the tree is not healthy. What is your assessment of the health of the tree?
Good morning, through you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thanks, just confirming that. Our assessment of the tree is that it is healthy despite the defects that the deputant mentioned. They are factors that are the diseases that cause needles to die and branches to die within the tree. But the tree is healthy despite that.
Okay, and what about the damage these needles do to? It seems the tree is destroying everything in a radius of 100 miles. But what about the hazards this tree is causing to the health of the grass and other nearby trees, etc.?
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. To put it simply, those factors are not. There are no provisions within the private tree bylaw that give us direction to take factors like those into account in assessing whether the tree qualifies for removal or not. We look only at the health of the tree. In this situation, this is a non-construction application. And the health of the tree is the issue for us, for urban forestry.
So does the neighbor next door support also the removal of the tree, the abutting neighbor?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure about that.
And how old is the tree approximately?
I couldn't say for sure. I would guess the rings of branches that you can see on the stem of the tree, each one of those occurs with 1 year of growth. Other photos of the tree might be more informative. I would suspect the tree is between 15 and 30 years old.
So it's approximately then about, what, 20 feet high?
I wouldn't hazard a guess on that.
Yes. Okay. Anyways, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other questions for staff? Any speakers? Councillor Cole?
Yeah, I would just like to hold this down till next meeting of council. I would like to make a site visit there, the 522 Woburn, and take a look at this tree before we make any decision.
Okay. A deferral to the next regularly scheduled North York Community Council meeting? And you'll do a site visit in the interim?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Clerk, motion to defer is on the floor.
Are we ready to take the vote, Councillor Pasternak?
Oh, yes, yes. So all those in favor of deferral? Opposed? That is carried. And correct me if I'm wrong, that concludes our business for today, or?
No, we do have to go back to Councillor
11.
Cole's item, the NY 1526.
1526. Here we go.
Is the new business item that was added.
Oh, right. Okay. That's been amended. Councillor Cole?
I've had discussions with staff, and I think staff's recommendation is that we just proceed with the motion as you have in front of you without the amendment. Is the best way to proceed through this process.
Okay. There it is on the screen. Installing a memorial plaque. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
We have to do the enactment of bills.
We have to do the bills, and I'm just looking for my scripting.
Madam Clerk, did we go back and do 11 and 12? Are those done?
Yes, they're done.
Great.
Okay. Members, I have a motion to introduce and enact certain bills that the North York Community Council pass and declare as bylaws. Bills 390 to 400 prepared for June 16, 2020, meeting 15 of Community Council. Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Members, I also have a bill to introduce to enact a confirming bill that North York Community Council pass and declare as a bylaw, confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceedings of North York. There it is. North York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 15 on June 16th, 2020. Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That concludes our business for today. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you very much, city staff and our dedicated clerks team. Enjoy the rest of the day, and of course, be safe out there. Take care.